Hello everyone and welcome to the third tutorial in this mini-series, this time covering languages, where I am going to show you how to get your localized game in Unity to behave correctly with Steam and its localization. My name is Mike, I work for In Principle Inc. and I have just completed the development of OVO Smash, a casual party game where memory match meets deathmatch. Alright. Let's get started with this language business. Now, before we go anywhere where I get to explain things to you, the first thing I need to explain is how I have designed my game, because that's pretty important in terms of languages. So what I want to do with my game is the following. While no local saves are present of any kind, so let's say the game is booted for the first time, I want the game to launch in the language that the UI is set to, assuming I support it. So I support English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish, which is called, it's the standard sort of abbreviation for this is EFIGS. And I also support Brazilian Portuguese. I have a story about that I'll tell you during this tutorial, which hopefully you will find more amusing than I did when I experienced it. Once this setup has been done, the game is going to launch in the correct language matching the UI of Steam, or it's going to default to English if the language isn't supported. Now, once that is done, the game actually has a language selection system within itself. Okay, actually, I might very well just show you, as opposed to talk about it. Right, so in this particular case, we already have some saves locally. They are in English, so our game is going to start in English. Okay, so let's skip all of this. We're going to go to settings. We're going to go to language, and you see I have my language selection system. Okay, so currently it's set to English. If I now change this and then save the settings, okay, then my game is going to launch in the language that was chosen in the local save file. Now remember, these are local save files, so if for whatever reason they're lost, then the default is going to launch itself again and the game is going to launch in the language of the UI. Okay, we're gonna test this a little bit together shortly. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna stop it here and let's go and take a look at our Steamworks again. Gonna log in again. It's loading. Okay, now let's open OVO Smash, and what we need to take a look at is where the languages exist, and that's a bit complicated. So the first place we're going to go is we're going to go to the store. So I'm gonna take a look at the store page. I'm gonna click there. Now this is more important than you think. Even though it doesn't have much to do with your build, it does in a roundabout way. So when I submitted my build, okay, I originally claimed in the store that I had English, Italian, Spanish, French, and German, or rather in the order English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, EFIGS, okay, and then I had Portuguese over here and Brazilian Portuguese. And when I submitted my game, it was noticed that in my language selection in-game menu, there was only one version of Portuguese. Now, Steam are quite fiscal with this apparently, even though I think it makes perfect sense that Portuguese players from Europe, say from Lisbon, would still want to play the Portuguese version of the game. Steam wanted nothing to do with it, and they rejected my game. So it's very important that you make absolutely sure that you fiscally claim what it is that you have in game and nothing more in the store. Okay, there are other menus where there are languages, we'll talk about them in a moment. But here in the store, very, very important. If you don't, your game will be rejected and you may face delays. Fortunately, this was done within my time period of release, where I can't release it, right, until the 10th of October. And so I was fine. But to you, this may be a serious setback in the sense that you may need to delay your release by 2 or 3 days. It may be a serious problem, so be careful. Okay, now we're gonna go back home. We are going to go back to OVO Smash again, and now we're going to look at another place where localization is extremely important, which is our achievements again. Okay, so let's take a look. Boom. In achievements, you can localize your achievements based on the languages that you're localizing in. And you'll see here I have a little list that tells me that everything is fully localized. All right. So let's go and take a look. Right here it says you can edit localization strings here, or you can upload them on the localization page. So let's click there. Let's go take a look. Okay, so here we have all of the languages that we cover. And again, this is a separate menu. All right, separate menu. And it's not necessarily related. It might auto-populate with itself. Now, one interesting thing here is you see these names. These are not the names the game understands. The game understands different names. Anyway, so let's say you've completed your list of English achievements and you have that list. You're going to click on download localization data. Now, I'm not going to do it right now, but you'll notice it downloads the build code lock for localization, English, which is the language that you picked, and VDF, which is the script file that Steam uses. So I just happen to have already done all of that, and I have them all. Right? So once you enable these, this drop-down menu allows you to pick between the languages that you've picked. You can do all languages and download it all and so on. Okay? So I've downloaded them all, like I was saying, and I have them all here. Now let's take a look at how this looks like. I've already loaded it up. There. Let's go to English. I've put them in order here, right? So you see new achievement 10 name, 10 desk. Okay, name and desk are fairly self-explanatory. But what's interesting is that this isn't called achievement 00, which you may have expected. It's using those two numbers, you may recall. You'll notice that it goes down to 31 and then it resets to the second bank. We talked about this in what am I talking about? In tutorial 2, the achievement tutorial, okay? And it's all here, okay? These are the numbers that matter, all right? And then you have the strings here. Okay, awesome. Another thing that's very important is up here, it says language, it says English. Now these words are extremely important because this is how Steam within itself understands what language we're looking at. And look at this guy. It's not called Portuguese-Brazilian. It's called Brazilian. Okay? So it's different from Portuguese in that way. These are the names you're interested in. Okay? Now, what you want to do is you want to essentially fill in all of these things with your other languages. Now, I happen to have done this via script. I've made myself a script to do this, which I'm not going to talk about here, but you can do it manually as well. It's just as good. And once you're done, what you can do is you can go back here and you can upload those files. And they'll get uploaded and everything's fine. And if all of the IDs correspond, it's not going to question you. It's going to be all perfect. Okay. Now, let's go to my game. I would like to show you how I dealt with this. So I've created another empty object. I called it Steam language, and I've created a Steam language script that's also a singleton that I have built myself. Okay, now let's take a look. All right, so this one is tiny. So it's got the singleton bit, right? It's got a private string Steam UI language, which is gonna use those strings that you saw before. It's got an awake function, which is identical to the other ones. So it assigns the singleton, and then it checks if the Steam manager has been initialized, and if it has not, then it sets this object to disabled as well. And there's one public int called get Steam language code. Okay, let's take a look. So this one returns an int. So let's see what do we have in here. Well, we have a Steam UI language that gets from Steam utils get Steam UI language. So this returns a string that has the information with that text. So if we return Brazilian, okay, then we can use that information. Here I debug login just for my logs, okay? And then what do? Well, I switch it, and I check all of the various ones, and I go case English or default, return 0. Now, why do I return 0? Well, you may recall that I have an in-game language selection system. And in my in-game, I also can choose languages, and in my case, the languages are all set to numbers, to ints, okay? So 0 is English, 1 is French, Italian, German, Spanish, so on. Okay, good. Now notice I did something sneaky. Don't tell Steam, okay, don't tell them about this particular video. But I've put it so that if people have the UI in Portuguese, I give them the Brazilian version. I'm sneaky like that. they didn't complain about this. I don't think they tested it, but don't tell them. This video is not public at all. Anyway, listen, I still think it makes perfect sense for a Portuguese person to get a Portuguese version of the game, okay? Just because of a regional discrepancy here, just as well as I would like an Argentinian person to play the Spanish version, even though the Spanish is European. It hardly matters to me. And I think it hardly matters to them. They much prefer the game in Spanish, even though it may have some expressions that they may not be entirely familiar with. At any rate, moving on. So this is all it does. Now, when does this get called? Now, you recall what I told you about the design. It only gets called once, literally only once, in load default settings, which is also called only once when no save file is found. So here, if Steam is enabled, and Steam language is active rather, wanted language, which is my internal code, right, is going to be that int returned, right? And I also debug it again because I like to be redundant for whatever reason. And I was probably testing it. And otherwise, if Steam is not enabled, then it's going to be default language, which is a public variable present further up that you'll see is defaulting on 0. Not here because it's public, it's in the inspector. Let's go and take a look. So menu, settings, default language 0. Yeah, so default language is always English. Okay, so that's it. And remember, this only happens the one time we launch the game. That's it. That's all there is to say. So all we need to do now is we need to test it a little bit, right? So I've already gone ahead and built a build for Steam, which we can go and take a look at. Let's go to Steam. SDK, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you about all of this in the next video and last, but for now, I'm just going to show you the build that I've built. There's the build, okay? And I'm not going to launch it yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my local saves, which Unity by default stores in app data local of your user. So I'm going to go right there. I'm going to find in principal games. I'm going to delete the folder. Bye. I've lost all of my saves now. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch OVO Smash. Now once this launches, okay, we're gonna get made in Unity, all sorts of stuff. Now it may not launch, and it did not launch. And do you know why it didn't launch and why it automatically focused to here? Well, because Steam still thinks I'm in game. You can't launch the game twice. That's because this app is still running. All right, well then let's close this app. Bye. Okay, so I've closed the app. And now we're going to go back to blue. And now, wrong one. And oh, wrong one again. And now I'm going to hit OVO Smash. And now it should be happy. Oh, it launched it again, but within the Steam environment. And now it's loading. There it is. Okay. So off we go. Now it should launch in English. Okay? Because I didn't change the language and everything's fine. Let's see. So we have the intro, which I can't skip. Click to play. Okay, it's about as English as it gets, right? So let's quit this. Yes. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the save files and we're going to delete in principal games again. And this time what I'm going to do is right here. I'm going to go to Steam, settings, and I'm going to go to interface, English. Switch it to, not French, that's, they stink of cheese. Ooh, I didn't say that. French people are so easy to offend. I'm gonna go to Italian, okay, and hit OK. And here it wants to restart Steam, so let's restart Steam. We need to wait for Steam to restart. Come on, Steam, don't let me down. Oh boy. Oh, connessione all'account Steam. Negozio, libreria. Okay, let's go to my libreria. OVO Smash, it's right there. Giocato per 36 ore. Now, if you find it suspicious that I can actually pronounce Italian relatively fluently, it's because I speak it, okay? But that's very much beside the point. So, okie dokie. So theoretically now, if I go ahead and launch my game, I'll do it directly from the interface this time, okay, and I hit Gioca, which should start the game. I have no save file. Theoretically, the game should launch in Italian. Let's see if that happens. You may ask yourself why my game flickers in and out. I'm not going to tell you, it's a technical reason. It's a compromise I had to go with. Okay. So you can see that the Steam interface is on in Italian, which makes sense, right? Apparently Italians call achievements achievements, which is weird because they don't do it on consoles. But anyway, clicca per giocare. There we go. We're in Italian. So that's great. Everything's working. All right, so I'm going to go to options. I'm going to go to language, and I'm going to switch to, let's go español, right? And go guardare y salir. So let's save. And we're going to salir. We're going to exit and see. And we're gonna exit. Now, if we launch the game one more time, what you're going to see is it should launch in Spanish. That's because of how I set up my game, right? Let's see. So my overlay is all in Italian because my UI in Steam is in Italian, and that's fine. Skip. And it's in Spanish. Fantastic. That's brilliant. So let's quit. Okay. Now I'm gonna show you a different experiment, and this is the last thing I'll show you today. Let's go to Unity. In my case, it's Unity 5 for OVO Smash. And what we're going to do is we're going to launch it from here now, and I'm also going to go to my controls and enable the Steam debug so I can unlock achievements, right? So, quiz of the day. Which language is my achievement pop-up going to appear in? Well, answer is fairly simple. It's the localized version of the achievement in my UI's language, and the Steam UI that I have is in Italian, even though my game is set in Spanish. So let's go to my profile and achievements. And if I go here, you'll notice that the text appears in Spanish. Why? Because these strings actually also exist as a copy of themselves in my local files. I decided to do that because it made more sense to me that the game would display the achievements in the language that we're currently set in within the game, right? But if I hit F5, okay, solo un graffio. Oh, pardon me. I can't check it in Steam because it's still in development. Solo un graffio versus curame. Okay, so curame is Spanish, solo un graffio is Italian. Okay, so it's working correctly. My pop-ups are in the language of my UI in Steam, and my in-game stuff is in the language that my game is set to. So it's at curame, right? Let's go to language and switch to Italian again, save. I'm gonna go back to profile and achievements, which, by the way, I called obiettivi, which is the terminology on the Xbox 360. So I think I'm gonna stick with that and leave it as it is, even though they're apparently called achievements in the Italian version in Steam. Anyway, digression. So here it says solo un graffio, which you may recall was exactly what appeared in the little pop-up down there. So now they're going to be consistent. So pezzetti ad ogiva, for example, if I hit F5, there it is, pezzetti ad ogiva down there. Awesome. All right, so the localization seems to me is working just fine. Everything's great, and I think I can leave you with this. Oh, I can't exit within the Unity system. So anyway, yes, that concludes the localization tutorial. I hope you found it enjoyable and useful, and if you did, leave a like, leave a dislike if you thought it was useless. Give me feedback, negative or positive, it's all welcome. You can subscribe if you like, and if you thought it was so useful that that you'd really like to support me, the best way to do it, the absolute best way to do it, is by purchasing a copy of OVO Smash from the Steam store. It's only $5.99 USD, and you'll help me immensely by doing that. Thanks very much for your time, and I will see you next time, where we will discuss building, so creating a build for Steam. Thanks very much.